Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Self Development with Tactics podcast. And I'm still and or again on the stream. And I think I might be doing it, like every time on a stream because it works good. And I just, I'm not only on YouTube because I really do not want to have only one burger. I do have or want to have several burgers so that, you know, if YouTube goes down, I still have Twitch and the podcast and all these other things. And so, but if Twitch goes down, I still have YouTube, and if Instagram goes down, I still have YouTube and Twitch, and so on. So this is what I'm aiming for. I think it's pretty good to be a little bit broader than than just having YouTube or just having Instagram or just having Twitter or just having Facebook. My point of view, also in terms of getting more exposure, it is good to have several channels, not in terms of YouTube channel or something, but in terms of putting out stuff. But as you can see on here, and I actually do know by now that I have to use my left hand on the left hand side of the screen, screen. And you can see that we are going to discuss Thanks for the Feedback, which is a book on how to receive and how to give actual and or good and worthwhile feedback. I've chosen that one because I always and still struggle with receiving feedback. I actually quite all the time see it as some kind of insult in terms of my actual persona, but most of the time it isn't just. But I kind of see it like this, and I really do want to know how I should give feedback so that the other person isn't like, yeah, I'm not this and that. Because a lot of people just take it personally if you just tell them that they did something not that good, or to give them something to improve. And the actual thing that I know by now is that you shouldn't give any advice or any feedback if the person isn't really willing to get it, because then you put yourself above the other person, which most of the time isn't pretty much liked by the other ones. This is something I've read and something I can really relate to, because it makes sense. And so Thanks for the Feedback. Thanks for the Feedback by Douglas Stone and Sheila Heen is a wonderful book on how to give and receive feedback. I'm still on the powermove.com website. So if you want to check out the summary as well, you can still look at it on your own. Yeah. It has 5 stars. It's 368 pages long, and it's from 2013. And let's go through the bullet summary. And to get the most, and I hope, I was just now thinking if there is any book I haven't been discussing fully, and I hope there isn't one, because I do actually not remember what I did yesterday, because there was so much going on with the stream and everything, so that I actually do not know it. But I hope there isn't something, and if there is, I will still do it some other time. But let's go through the bullet summary. And to get the most out of feedback, change your identity, switch to a growth mindset. This, really is, relating to the mindset book I was discussing, I think 2 or 3 days ago, which was all about if you have a growth mindset or if you have a fixed mindset. A fixed mindset, have people that are like, yeah, I'm born like this. This is something I can't change. They, really can't receive feedback because they just act then like, they have to justify themselves so that everything they do is still, kind of right. Such persons. And the growth mindset, on the other hand, is you can, get feedback, and you just, get something out of the feedback, and another few indicators, which I actually do not remember, to be honest. But if you're interested in it, just see, maybe I've put something like mindset in the title as well. So, just look for the episode on YouTube. It should be on a podcast and YouTube. So, everything is fine. The second point is, the story you tell yourself about the feedback will affect how you take it and act on it. And you control the story through emotions and thoughts. which, I can't really think of something right now, but I hope this will be a little bit more clear, throughout this whole article. And the third point is, always look at feedback as their intersection of two realities, and what you see is not the same as they see, which is actually completely the truth, especially in terms of presentations. If you give, and I can only some kind of relate to it in terms of presentation or presentations, or especially in terms of presentations, because in school we have fairly a lot of presentations, because if you do some design work, you just have to present it to your customers, or in my terms, to my teachers. You just, kind of have to sell it. And this is something not pretty easy, especially when you aren't that, if you aren't find your own idea or your own creation that good, it's much harder. But the thing is, if you present something, what you see and how you see it is completely different than they see it. And the thing is, you actually know what you're talking about, and you actually know what this whole presentation is about. And what for example, in terms of me, what this whole design is about, all the thoughts, all the creation process, everything. And the thing is, people who are just, watching your presentation do not know what all your design process was about, what, all your thoughts was about or were about, if you were actually designing this particular thing. So they do not have the knowledge you have. This should give you some kind of framework so that you just know that you should be, kind of explaining everything, not what the people see. So don't be like, yeah, there you can see a red dot and there's a black dot and I've used this font, and so on. Just, be like, yeah, I've used this font because there is a red dot, because there is a black dot as well, because they actually do not know why you have done that, but they can see what you have done. But, they do not actually see the background of it or the thoughts behind it. But let's go to the full summary. Learning about ourselves can be painful, which is true, and but you should always, kind of see it as ways to grow, because all these feedbacks, all this criticism, it doesn't matter if it's, some kind of good criticism or something you can actually work with, or if it's somebody just, picking on you and fucking you all over, you can always learn something. And this is the thing I kind of struggle with, because, as I said before, I some sort of take everything a little bit too personally, even though I truly know that I shouldn't do it. But this is something you have to work on. Especially if we accept with the idea of I'm not good enough as I am. That's what makes feedback difficult, but we can all improve in both receiving and giving feedback. That's what thanks for the feedback is all about. And especially some sort of, what is it called? I'm really happy to then see how I actually can give feedback so that people actually can work with it and have, so, they get something out of it, not like criticism that's, good, not really good for the person you're giving it to, and also not good for the person that's giving it, because the other person might then be, really hating this other person, if you just, know this situation, what I'm just describing right now. But yeah, receiving feedback well. Receiving feedback well does not necessarily mean accepting the feedback. It means engaging in a conversation skillfully, making good choices on whether and how to use the information, and managing our emotional triggers so that we do not get defensive. That's actually a good point to point out, that you should never get defensive. Just, some sort of side facts. Besides this, if you're crossing your arms, in front of your chest, you really just, this really indicates that you are in a defensive mood, or the situation you are right in isn't, really something you like. So if you're having presentations, never be like this, because it's too defensive, and you are just protecting your body, because you just think about it as all the people you're presenting to, they're just some kind of predators for you. They just want to attack you. And the thing is, if you are the guy who is presenting, or the girl, whoever is just hearing or watching me, and you see that or notice that some people in the audience, or maybe your boss or maybe your client is sitting with crossed arms, maybe you give them something to hold, so that they have to break up their crossed arm situation or the crossed arm position. This makes for them and for you a better position to actually receive this presentation, or actually get the full out of it, because they won't be in a defensive mood. They won't be in a defensive mood anymore. Yeah. The first one is avoid looking for what's wrong with the feedback first thing. The second one is, as you can see here, no, you can't see because you can't see the mouse. There is something broken up, or something not that good with the text on the article, because there should have been 3 points or 3 bullet points, but there are actually only 2. But the first one is avoid looking for what's wrong with the feedback, which is actually quite a good advice. Just the thing is, at my point of view, even if it's difficult, and before I was going through this first point, I was just thinking about, he said that you should take every criticism or every feedback for like, that's totally true, just some sort of use your own brain to see what's actually some kind of useful for yourself. And then I was just thinking about what's wrong about what the other person was saying. But the thing is, maybe you get just in a mood where you can't receive anything if you just are looking for something that's not true, and you can't really receive what's actually true. Maybe that's the thing behind this one. Make sure you understand what's being said, and I think that's actually pretty important, because communication is something that's so fucking difficult. And the thing is, we all think like it's some kind of everybody understands what I'm saying, and everybody gets it, and most of the time just something completely different comes out of the conversation, or out of what you're actually saying and what you're actually thinking, than you actually wanted to. But that's a reason for me why I would say that you should always be asking the person you're receiving the feedback from, if you haven't understood what he meant or she meant. The 3 types of feedback. The first one is appreciation, build relation, appreciate and encourage. The second one is coaching, help someone grow and change and improve, which means that you should actually give feedback that provides these things. If you just be like, you fucked it completely up, you just, really shitty in this presentation, you can't speak, you can't design, you can't do nothing, this isn't coaching. This is just, picking on the other person, being a fucking asshole and a fucking jerk to the other one. And the third one is evaluation, comparison against other or a standard, align expectations, inform decision making. I'm always being like, and while I'm reading, I'm just thinking if there is anything I can say to it, if there are any experiences I've made with it, and so on. But I think I haven't in terms of this one. Even though I just feel like it's not that great to be like as a feedback giver. The person who had the presentation before you was quite better in this and that one. Even though you can just really evaluate it, because you have seen the other person before, maybe even in terms of my situations, it's always like the whole class has to present, and so everybody is seeing every presentation, and then you can really just be like, this person spoke pretty good, and then you might be looking at this person, how he had spoken and what was good about it, and seeing this was good about it, I will take it. And on the other hand, maybe he or she did something not that good, and be like, this is something that I didn't find that good, so I won't take it. It's always like, and it's while I'm talking, it really reminds me on Gary Vee, and in an interview I think it was, or it was just some kind of episode on his podcast. He was talking about some kind of the relationship with his father, or how his father had a pretty important position in his life in terms of this business and career thing, because it was actually like his father, or he just really watched and observed his father in terms of how he's acting with the customers, how he's being a leader in terms of the co-workers and everything, and he just took what he found pretty good about it, and he didn't take and just lost everything he found pretty bad or not that good. And I think you should always be doing this and always be like re-evaluating and just thinking about it on your own, not being like, yeah, this person said this and this person is doing that, so I will do it as well. If you see something another person is doing, you maybe even are appreciating, but you feel like, yeah, that's actually not that right, and it's maybe not that good for the business I'm doing right now, then don't do it. I often just feel like I'm talking about common sense things, but at the end, it might be common sense for me, and or just just something everyday like things for me, but actually I hope that I'm providing some value for anybody who is either listening to the podcast or watching the stream or watching the YouTube video. We need all three of them. Appreciation might seem like it's not even a feedback, but not relationship can stay healthy without enough appreciation. That's totally true. If you're just picking on the other person and just pointing out negative things, you can always search for the good things and you can always search for the bad things. So some kind of balance between these two things in terms of giving feedback might be, at my point of view, not that false. Appreciation. 3 qualities are necessary for a good appreciation feedback. The first one is be specific. The second one is come in a form the receiver values and understands. And the third one is authentic. It must be deserved. That's true, because if you're just pointing out something that's, just you have to say something that's, or have to be appreciating the other person, it's definitely not authentic and definitely not that, people notice. So be authentic, yeah. Being specific, yeah, that's totally true. If you're like, yeah, you've spoken pretty good, it is actually something I've heard quite often. Yeah, I'm not like being, yeah, I'm a good speaker, this is not what I want to say, but the thing is, it's actually something you do not get anything from, which is the fucked up part about it, because, if they say, yeah, you've spoken pretty good in your presentation, your language was pretty fluent and everything, I like, yeah, but, this okay, I understand it, but what's the feedback then? Instead of saying, yeah, you were very fluent and all your sentence transitions were great, and you really took some things out of your pocket, and we clearly didn't notice that you didn't have a script or something. This would be more specific than just saying, yeah, you spoke good. Come in form of the receiver values and understands, which is, at my point of view, some kind of complicated, and they even point out that you should check out the 5 love languages, a book that I've been speaking about, or a summary of the book I've speaking about quite a time from now on, some kinda. But the thing is, I think it's actually important, or not that it's pretty difficult. This is what I actually want to say. It's pretty difficult to know what somebody's values are. If you especially do not really know him or her, but I kind of understand it, but I do not really know now what how I should say it. But the 3 feedback triggers. When we get defensive because of a feedback, it's usually because it triggers strong reactions in one of the following areas. Truth triggers. Truth triggers means understanding whether the feedback is true or not. It can be more complex than you think, and most most of thanks for the feedback is also aimed helping us understanding how to how to skillfully analyze the feedback. So I have to read it again because I didn't really get it, to be honest. Truth triggers means understanding whether the feedback is true or not. It can be more complex than we think, and most of thanks for the feedback is also aimed helping us understanding how to skillfully analyze the feedback. Identity triggers. Identity is the story we tell ourselves about who we are. If the feedback challenges the idea we have of ourselves it is possible it will be highly destabilizing for us, and we can either lash back or reject the feedback outright, which is something I can really relate to, because I really see myself as someone who is speaking pretty good and, in general does good presentations. This is something I can give myself. I don't give myself a lot of things, but this is actually something I have to admit for myself. And then the thing is, if someone comes up and tells me like, yeah, you didn't speak pretty good, this is something I would definitely be rejecting, because this is not how I think about myself. And this is actually, I think, what the author of the article actually and the book mean. Yeah, the author said that a huge determinant of how we take feedback at an identity level is whether we have a fixed or growth mindset. That's, actually true. Relationship triggers. Do we like the person giving us the feedback? Did the feedback giver treat us well? Do we trust them? Are they credible? In terms of the credible thing, it's always funny if you get feedback from someone who, just, some kind of criticizes you on the field or in the field that he or she isn't good themselves, is for me always quite funny. Even though, as I'm thinking about it right now, it's not something you should be rejecting, even though it might be some kind of really, really near decision, near to, your thoughts. But the thing is, they actually see you outside or from the outside, and they aren't in the inside. So they see you, and you actually can't see yourself, presenting the product or the presentation or whatever. And this is some kind of feedback enough. So I definitely for myself have to keep an eye on that. Often react more to the person giving us the feedback than to feedback itself. It might be the way they say it. How dare you talk to me like that? Or you're a fine one to talk. Relationship triggers the risk to put two different tracks on the table that we should better not mix. Our relationship and the feedback itself, treat them separately. None of these reactions are necessarily wrong, but they shouldn't stop us from tackling the feedback and looking dispassionately at the information that feedback carries. It's not a problem per se having a reaction to a feedback, but it's a problem if it stops from engaging fully in the feedback conversation, which it can easily do. Knowing and understanding our triggers will help us locate the source of our issues with the feedback and within us. That's actually pretty true, because if you're really like, your triggers, then you can really, first of all, change them, and you can really look for them and really some sort of, keep them down some sort of. And then if you're actually presenting something, then just keep an eye on them and see that you're actually not going into your bad habits. Let's just tell them bad habits for a moment, and just get the feedback. Just try to work with it. Try to look at it, and roadblocks to good feedback. In different data, we might be looking at different data. Interpretation, we might interpret the same data with our own biases and preferences. Psychological biases, we assign good intentions to ourselves but not always to others. Blind spots, what we don't see about ourselves that others see. our body language, knowledge gap, etc. Overall, the author say nothing guarantees objective feedback, and there is always an element of subjectivity. Even when feedback is given based on strict numbers, someone still had to pick those numbers to evaluate us against. Which is totally true, and I think I just have to say something in terms of, the feedback giver, so in terms of just, what person it is. And this is something, an experience of mine I just had. It isn't really long ago. It happened not pretty long ago. It was a presentation for, and I've actually been talking about it before, but it is actually something, something that will contribute the whole, the whole article, the whole thinking about it. I had a presentation on colors, so we discussed colors and how they make us react to, and what they stand for, and what companies they use and why they use them, and so on. And so I had a presentation. I made it fairly different. So it was not quite such a normal presentation in terms of the design, especially because I should have done it some kind of differently, and then now know that I should have done it differently, and I now understand that I should have been definitely doing it differently, even though while I was designing it, I was just thinking about it to be pretty aesthetic and that everything looks good. But at the end, things can look good. This seat, which I'm just sitting at, or this stool, even I think it is called stool, or this chair I'm just sitting at, it could be pretty nice looking, but the thing is, if it's either not comfortable or you can't sit on it because it's that how should I say that not that balanced, so it just would crash down if you sit on it, it's not good. And it was the same thing with my presentation. The presentation itself was good looking. I still think this, but it wasn't meant to be a presentation because of how it was looking. And so I was pretty discouraged when I got the bad feedback, because before I was just really I was just really into my own presentation, because it was looking good, but it was not a good presentation, in terms of the design and so on. And so I was quite not that happy about my feedback, first of all. But the thing is, my teacher, I really like a lot of people, but he was always someone who gave me some criticism that was fairly personal, or quite such that it attacked me personally. I do not know why, I do not know how, but the thing is, I know it, and I know it's especially by now that it shouldn't be it, because feedback is always good. Feedback is something that's important, and you can't grow without feedback. And this is actually the thing why I've lately been really like, please give me the criticism, please give me the feedback. I want to know it. I want to get really punched in the face with these facts, because I really hated me for just being like, this feedback is just pretty shit. I do not think about it like this person is, and so on, so that I'm not really receiving it correctly. So long story short, the thing is, I do not really want to say that I didn't like the person who was giving me the feedback, but I always got some kind of different criticism of him. But and that might have been the reason before, first of all, that I was fairly defensive, first of all. And but the thing is, I really quickly got myself, and I really just understood and recognized that I am now in a defensive mood. I am now just acting defensive and acting silly, and I should really take the fucking criticism and or feedback. And then I was strictly like, just please tell me, and why is it like it? So I've really been trying to understand it. which, then after all really helped me. I've just made a few jokes and, made it a little bit fun for me and for my classmates and also for the teacher, because, having this just really, really, strong, not strong, but strict feeling in the air and all these things isn't something I really like, I think. Yeah. But let's see. System level view. I think I've read the one above already. Never mind. Often is given in a way that communicates. What the fuck? System level view often is given in a way that communicates. You are this way and it's a problem. But often the problem is not in one person, but in the intersection between two persons. For example, a person snoring might not be a problem if the partner didn't have a light sleep. If the intersection between light sleep and snoring, that creates the issue. The solution is to look at the problem from a system perspective. This is a reality and there are several contributing factors to it, including all the people who are giving and receiving feedback are the levels you should look at. You plus me intersection, personal differences, roles clashes, is our issue part of the different role we have, or the environment, processes, laws, or other players. I really hope you got something out of it. I actually do not know that much if I got something out of it, but yeah. But I do still want to go a little bit further in this summary or article, because I was just talking about myself and not really about the summary itself, which is maybe good, maybe not. I don't know. Feedback profiles. Thanks for the feedback. Says there are a few of archetypes of people when it comes to receiving feedback. Blame absorbers. They fail to explore the intersection of the problem, how everyone is contributing, and they always take the whole blame, which sometimes it means they feel terrible about it, and it's often related to low self-esteem. Another issue of blame absorbers is that they can easily build resentment over time. So the blame absorbers, they just take everything, and yeah. So I pretty much feel about them like they just receive everything and they immediately think like, yeah, this is true and I should change it, and they aren't really re-evaluating it. So maybe my teacher was saying, yeah, your presentation was shit, but if I think, yeah, this was good about it, and I clearly know that it isn't his kind of field of experience or field of really knowing it, then I will definitely be doing what I'm thinking. Blame shifters, these are the most fun. Oh my god. I've said it so fucking often in all my episodes I had, but this is something you pretty much have to keep attention to. And I really, please do it. Please do it. It's so funny. It's so fucking interesting that, and if I just understand it correctly, these are the people who are just, shifting the blame to somebody else, which means that if you tell somebody, like, it came to a car crash and, everything is fucked up and so on, and then the people are like, yeah, you made the mistake, and the other person is, yeah, but you made the mistake, and the thing is, it's always like that. You just have to keep attention to it. You just, hear it every fucking single day, that people are just like, yeah, this was your fault, this was the president's fault, because of the president I do not have a job, because of him I lost my money, because of my mother I am now a fucked up child, because of this, because of that, because of whatever, everything but not themselves. But the thing is, actually, only themselves can change their situation. It is always some kind of in terms of how the people just think about it. Situations appear, but it's always in terms of how you react to them. If you have a car crash, you can easily be reacting like, yeah, okay, I made a mistake, and maybe I'll learn from it, maybe not. But yeah, but let's actually see if it's actually what the authors meant. They never acknowledge their roles in the problem. It's him, not me. It's a new update that screwed up everything. It's a setup against me. It's not relaxing to avoid blame. It's exhausting to always having to shift blame. It's a very weak way to approach life. That's totally true. Totally true. How baseline personality affects feedback. Our baseline personality also heavily affects how we receive feedback. Baseline behavior. People who are generally happy and content with a high self-esteem take feedback better, which makes sense because they are just, they are just the person for getting feedback, or just, are more, just, kind of made for getting feedback or receiving it correctly. People who are generally unhappy, or generally, dissatisfied and with low self-esteem take negative feedback harder. Second one is swings. There are differences in the mood swings people experience. The third one is sustain and or recovery. There is also a difference in personalities when it comes to moving on from feedback, whether positive or negative, giving rise to 4 different possible mixes. Recovering quickly from negative feedback, recovering slowly from negative feedback, sustaining joy for positive feedback for a long time, or sustaining joy for positive feedback only for a short time. Which actually just means, what you do with the feedback. Just, if you got positive or negative feedback, you either can be working with it, or you can either be like, yeah, that's not true, and not do it. The result is a quadrant, where ideally one would recover quickly from a negative feedback while staying happy for the longest time on positive feedback. So, okay, it was meant like a little bit differently. This is what Ray Dalio calls looking at yourself from above as if you were a machine, which is just, some sort of the third person view. You have yourself, then the person who is giving the feedback, and some kind of something in between, or something out of the whole scenario. And this is actually something, at my point of view, is pretty important. I'm just thinking about an example of it, but it often comes down to really being truthful to yourself. Yeah, you make mistakes. I make mistakes as well. The whole episode long, I've been thinking about if I've been saying true things. And I now have to say that I'm not in a position where I can tell you what you have to do. This is not what I can. I know quite a lot of things. I've been going through a lot of summaries, a lot of books, a lot of knowledge. But it doesn't mean that you should, be doing what I have been saying. And I hope I've been, saying, I've not been saying not true things, so you get what I mean. So things that were not true, because I always tend to talk a lot, and then not a lot of shit comes out of my mouth, but it's yeah, but it's also a day for that, some sort of. But yeah, the authors say that we can change our wiring, which is true. Yeah. How our stories affect feedback. A major component of how we react and act on the feedback is the story we tell ourselves about it. The authors say that thoughts plus feelings are the stories. That means that what we think about the feedback and how we feel when we receive it will determine what we tell ourselves about the feedback. And that will ultimately influence how we react and how we act upon that feedback. To control how we feel and act on the feedback, we must control feelings and thoughts. That's actually true. And in terms of this, I can really just, bring to you meditation. Meditation was one of the reasons why I've been really kind of working on my impatience and kind of working on my feelings in general. And now pretty much, see my feelings coming, and I can either depress them as far as if it's possible, and or, just letting them be, or just letting them come out of me, which is the easiest thing, to just let your feelings do their thing, or just depressing them to not like let the situation escalate or something. And this is something meditation showed me, or some kind of guided me to, and which helped me to in most of the situations. Sometimes I just explode anyways, because the situation is so how should I say, so crazy, not really crazy, but so tough and so difficult and so on, that it's what it is. Feelings, for example, if we are super tense while we receive a feedback from our boss, we tend to see it more defensively, because our body is in a fight or flight response. The response we have to a threat. Calming ourselves down is a great way to positively influence how we feel, how we will receive the feedback, and how we will think about it. The thing is, I've now been actually thinking about another presentation I had just a week ago. Yeah, it was actually a week ago, where I've had a teacher, and she was pointing out things that I first of all wasn't really into, and was like, yeah, that's certainly not true. But the thing is, I do not know what she thinks, and she doesn't know what I think. So the thing is, only because she's saying it doesn't mean that I should take it for, just take it. What do I want to say actually? So she was, to create some context, she was actually telling me that, or telling to the whole class after my presentation, because mine was the last one, that we've pointed out a lot of things that we didn't do well, but you shouldn't be doing if you are actually selling something, which makes sense. You won't be being like, yeah, to your client, yeah, I fucked that up, and this is also something I didn't do well, but actually this was something I did do well. It makes sense, yeah. The thing is, people receive information some kind of differently, and so maybe she received it like this, but I actually meant it some kind of other way, which is just a general difficulty of conversation, or not conversation but communication. But yeah, so this is also something you just have to look at my point of view. Just people just receive things completely differently, even though you just meant it some kind of different, if you understand what I mean. And thoughts. The thoughts are what we tell ourselves about the feedback, and we have an easier time in controlling them. There is also a strong connection between thoughts and feelings, as thoughts can also generate the feelings. That's completely true. By controlling our thoughts, we influence how we receive and act on the feedback. Yeah, makes sense. And I think this is now the end of the episode. There will be another episode today. Maybe it depends on how I'm doing with the timing, because I now have to work out. I really have to work out. I really want to work out. And maybe afterwards, after I've eaten something and I showered and all these things you just have to do, I might be doing another episode, but I still have to post the posts for tomorrow as well. So yeah, but the thing is, if there's anything you want to critique myself on, or you want to just tell me, there should be somewhere all the links to my social media channels or profiles or whatever. You can just DM me or comment on my post or something, what's most convenient to you. I really have to thank you for being with me, also for the podcast listeners, because especially them really, made me pretty happy, because the numbers are going up as crazy. And it's something that makes me really happy to see that something I make is bringing maybe joy to someone, or value to someone, or just something to someone. But thank you, and I'll see you the next time. And I hope everything is doing well. I hope you have the wealth, the health, the happiness, especially the happiness, and I'll see you.